with the sword work is resheathing the sword, or the noto. This is done generally after the draw is made and a cut has been made. Put the sword back. The saya is taken and clasped between the thumb and forefinger. It's then turned edge out, away from the body, and the sword is brought across the center of the body, or the hara. At this point, the sword is pulled between the thumb and forefinger in a circular motion. This is to save space and time. And as the sword is pulled, the saya is pulled back towards the body. And as the sword is permitted to enter the saya, the sword is pulled down towards the saya, and the saya is pulled towards the sword simultaneously. The same as on the draw. In the draw, the sword is pulled away from the saya and the saya away from the sword. On the noto, the sword is brought across, and then they are brought together, ending with the tsuba, or the hilt guard, in front of your center, in front of your hara, which is where the sword should be worn. It gives the sword this type of appearance, rather than you see sometimes swordsmen in that position, or if it's too far, many times the sword will slip out. So if it's kept centered, the sword will ride safely right at that point. Now there are other types of resheathing that you'll also find, but they're in conjunction with different types of chiburi, or bloodshedding techniques, which we'll move on to next. The next step in working with the sword is the chiburi, or the bloodshedding technique used at the end of a battle or at the end of cutting. The first one we'll show you is very common in the seite katas of the All Japan Kendo Federation. It's done where the sword, at the end of the cut, is turned and moved out in a circular motion, almost a scooping type of motion, and raised to the height of the shoulder, so that the arm is straight out off the shoulder and the sword is straight back. At this point, the sword is raised till your hand is close enough to touch your head. If you extended your thumb, you touch your head at about your temple. And at this point, the blade is shaken clean of blood, ending with the tsuba, or the guard, parallel and in line with your knot or your obi, your hara, your center, the knot on your obi or your center. This is the first chiburi technique. Once again, scooping out, circling, up, and down. At the end of the chiburi, the point is still turned into center. So if you drew an imaginary line off of the point of the sword, it would continue to a center point about 5 feet in front of me. Once again. And then the noto. The second chiburi is a very short chiburi. This is done by following up the end of the cut and simply shaking the sword out to the side in a very rapid motion, leaving the point to center, so the position of the sword is the same as at the end of the first chiburi, and shedding the blood from the blade, followed by the noto. third noto only appears in one of the sete katas. After the cut is made in the kata, the blade is turned over the index finger of the right hand and permitted to rest on the right knee. In the right hand, the grip is reversed, the saya is brought forward, and the noto is made. Once again, the front stance, it's turned and permitted to rest against the right knee. As the grip is reversed, the saya is taken with the left hand, and the noto is made.